Leadership Transformation. Welcome to Women Rise series with Art Now Media, communicating impact for climate, nature, people, and development. We celebrate the impact that women trailblazers are having across the world, get inspired by their actions, and actually experience through listening to the amazing work they are doing so that we can share and shape the just, inclusive, and equitable world that we all desire. And joining me today is one of those trailblazers, an amazing woman climate change impact leader, sister in climate, and really a storyteller. What an honor to have you, Natalie. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Nice to see you and host you. And I just quickly, for our viewers, wonder, who is Natalie? Where does she come from? What does she do?
Always the great question to start with. So Natalie Sifuma is a Pan-African ecofeminist, a storyteller, a lover of life and literature as well, and the founder of Sisters in Climate, which is also a Pan-African ecofeminist community for African women. And we are just welcoming more African women into the climate conversation by focusing on things that women love, which is fashion, food, farming, and flowers.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing, really needing everyone on board to support this movement and to be part of the change that we desire to see in the world, right? And you've excelled at what you do. How has the journey been for you?
Thank you. It's been a journey, and no journey is straightforward. But I think that the power of journeys is the lessons that we learn along the way. And I always say that I'm so fortunate that I had a good boss at some point in this wonderful life. And so for 5 years, I worked at a storytelling firm here in Kenya. And that really just helped me hone and tap into my storytelling abilities and really just unleash the storyteller in me, and I'm sure my ancestors are so proud. And then from there, really just broadened my scope and was very curious about this world around us, what connects us to nature, and found my way into the climate space for an incredibly amazing, for the most part, 2 years. And that's been also a learning curve as well. And here we are today,
Natalie, of course, working with Sisters in Climate and that focus on the role women are playing in the space across sectors. I wonder, what role do you see women leaders in Africa playing in advancing the climate solutions and ensuring we have environmental restoration efforts from that grassroots level?
That's a really good question. I think that women are very influential in their families. They're the ones who control how much food is produced, how much food is consumed, how much food is even discarded. They're the ones who also, if there's a child in the house, they're the ones who, design the clothes or ensure that a child is, kind of properly dressed and everything. And so that is in the family itself, and that's also at grassroots level. In rural communities as well, it's women who, in Africa alone, women are responsible for 70% of the food that we consume. And so women, it is a big number, and yet women only own 20% of land in Africa, So there is that disparity, but at the end of the day, women are very influential and have the power. It's really just about helping them tap into that power and making them realize that, you have so much power, and it's about how you strategically kind of enable that power to come into action. In as far as bridging the divide between grassroots and governance, that's still an area that we're still trying to figure out. But having worked at a climate advocacy campaign, I do see that also at top level, there is still that challenge of lack of women's representation in decision-making roles. And so for us, it's really about ensuring that we have as many women at grassroots level, at family level, coming together, forming that sisterhood, because I think with more public pressure and more public participation, we can actually influence policy in the long term.
Wow, and that we need these grassroots up building and creating of new systems and really empowering the woman at the grassroots to be able to take up charge and initiate the change, because like you said, over 70% of African women actually in direct touch with our lands, producing the foods and actually engaging at that landscape level. So if we are not empowering them, if we are not equipping them, then actually we are doing a big disservice to nature. And if you are watching us, keep tuned at Now Media, communicating impact for climate, nature, people, and development. As you continue the conversation, Natalie, of course, there's no journey without bumps, without at times potholes. And I wonder how have you, one, what are some of the challenges that you've come across in the course of engagement around Sisters in Climate, and also as a storyteller, and how have you been able to overcome those barriers?
Right. So building Sisters in Climate was not, it wasn't like in fact, I say I was the midwife of Sisters in Climate when it came to be in April 2023. At the time, I was working a full-time job, so being able to work a job and build something that was, a passion project. At first, I didn't really think too much about it. I was like, it's gonna grow organically. But the more challenges I faced in the work environment, where I was, essentially being asked to choose between work and my Africanness, to choose between work and my Blackness. With time, I was just like, you know what? I choose being African, I choose being Black, I choose being a woman over some of these politics that, continue to take over some of these global spaces. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually in June of 2024 where I met somebody who challenged me. Why don't you step away from your employment? Why don't you step away from your job, actually, and focus on Sisters in Climate? And that was a daunting task in itself. But I was just like, you know what? I have what it takes to make this thing wholesome. I understand what it means to be an African woman, not in its entirety, but I have that lived experience. And what does that look like to then invite more African women into this conversation that has felt so gate-kept for the longest time, has felt so westernized? And so that was kind of the push and pull along the journey. But I'm so glad I made that decision, because now Sisters in Climate has grown so organically, and to be able to be at the center of that growth, to be both a student and a teacher of it, has been just such a beautiful process, and I can't wait to see how much more growth we will, sort of take on in the coming years.
Yeah, I like the underlying factor you've just put in that, we are the ones you've been waiting for, and we don't start now, and it will start. And just from June 2024, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's been quite a journey in a very short time.
I know.
And I hope to see the growth, of course, and being a part of this journey, seeing how we can celebrate more African women while leading and bringing about change across sectors, and really creating new livelihoods for their communities and for themselves as well, Yeah. And to you, I just wonder if that was one thing that you would change about you, what would that be?
Oh my goodness.
Could be from your professional, from your personal life, or you as a storyteller, you as an initiator with Sisters in Climate.
Wow, that's a fantastic question. I would say my patience, which is also surprisingly something that I've been working on this year, really just being able to be more patient and understanding that while I'm more of a fast-paced person in getting things done and being very solution-oriented, understanding that not every single person is like me, and welcoming the diversity that also comes in personalities, and understanding that also my role as a storyteller and also as a leader is to lead, to guide, to also understand that people are coming from different walks of life as well, and lived experiences as well. And so my 180 kph, somebody else might be 50, and it's really just about understanding that people move at different paces, and welcoming that and embracing it as well, but then also using my strengths and my superpowers to make sure that they stay on course, they speed up a little bit when they can, but allowing them to also just feel accepted and welcome.
Wow. I don't want to water it down or change anything that you just said. But let's talk about this elephant in the room, gender justice in Africa. I'm sure you've seen a lot happening in the space. You've seen a lot of biases that are facing, especially women, from, like you said, the household level, the land level, even from the work environment. How has that made you feel, the biases and injustices around gender justice in Africa? And then what future do you envision on what gender justice could look like for Kenya and for Africa indeed?
Yeah, no, I've done a lot of reading. I've seen a lot of things, even experienced quite a bit. And I mean, at the end of the day, it really is, even in the climate conversations, I mean, which is why we're talking about gender justice, is very much around seeing women as second-class citizens, and that is not the truth, because women, women are the leaders. Women literally carry children for 9 months and birth entire societies, and so for them to be considered and treated as second-class citizens, I mean, is wrong. For me, it's been kind of irritating, and as somebody who, I'm the only girl in my family, but then I was very fortunate to grow up in a household where especially my father would always remind me that you have so much power, you wield so much power, and understanding over time that my power is just not for me, it's for other people to benefit from. And having seen just kind of what gender justice first looks like globally, but then also how African women still fall at the bottom of, sort of that pyramid or that hierarchy, if I could call it that. It obviously gets irritating, but then it just reminds me that, hey, Natalie, you have the skill set of communication, of storytelling. How can you use it to shape the narrative, to change the story, to break the bias, to change the rules as well? And so that's one thing that I also try and do on a personal level as well. And even not just with women, but also with men, especially younger men. My brothers who are younger than I am, I always just remind them, it is a woman's world. It's not a man's world. We've just patriarchy, colonialism.
Am I in trouble?
Listen, the brothers are gonna come in and support the sisters, but at the end of the day, we also need to understand that to achieve even an equitable society, we need both men and women working together. But it also takes us unlearning certain things that have come through colonialism, that have come through, even just the modernization of times, and really just understanding that women are there, women have been there. And my hope is that, even just with Africa, we can influence how even the rest of the world views women, and not just women in general, but women of color, Black women. I
love that that women are creators, and for sure they are creators. I'm not seeing a man giving birth. I'm not seeing a man carrying pregnancy in a healthy biological way to term, and also that aspect of nurturing, right? I see it also as a symbolic thing for Sisters in Climate. You're literally nurturing that baby, and it's symbolic to how you nurture and be a biological baby, And these are things you need to learn. I agree with you that yes, the biases have been there, the stereotypes have been there, but it's up to us, both men and women of Africa, to take up the charge, to stand up and actually bring about the change. If we cannot initiate it, then no one else will do. And if they do, they'll do it too late.
And remembering that it's not just for us, we're doing it for the children that will come after us, for the young ones currently, So once we realize that, and also the stories that we tell, and one of the approaches that I take even with storytelling is focusing on the positive. And that's why I keep going back to the storytelling firm that I worked at, because what we were doing was countering media narratives. So not necessarily ignoring the fact that media narratives are there and they spotlight the negative stories, but it's just like, what about the positive stories? Where are those, and can we amplify those? So yeah.
Wow. What inspiring, what a moment, and what a time to have the one and only Natalie Sifuma, founder of Sisters in Climate. And before I let you go, I just want to paint a bit of a picture. What does the future of Sisters in Climate look like? What should we expect in the future? Where are the engagements? Where are the collaborations?
Oh my goodness. I am also waiting to see, because remember, I'm a student of Sisters in Climate. I'm also one of the educators at Sisters in Climate. But I do see us taking on more projects that go beyond Kenya, because right now, given that the founding team or the founder is in Kenya, we have been mostly Kenya focused, but then in our community in itself, we have women from about 6 African countries. So we want to have as many community meetups across the continent, bring more women into the conversation on climate, see what it looks like based on their lived experiences, where they stay as well. And so the future does look like a wholesome Pan-African community with women from all 54 countries representing climate adaptation, sustainability, being champions for it, and just driving the conversation forward. And really just, elevating Africa even more than it already is. Yeah.
That is a future I want to live and see. That is a future I want to be in. And as you bring this to a close, Natalie, there's a young boy somewhere, a young girl somewhere. There's a woman working somewhat at the grassroots level. There's someone watching at this point. And I would like you to just focus on this camera and inspire them in your own words.
Wow. So first, hey sis, hey bro. I would say that you have the power to change the world. You have the power to change the community around you. Just make sure that you're grounded in your values. Remember who you are and stand firm in that, because you literally have the power.
You have the power. What a moment, what an inspiration, what a challenge. It's been an absolute honor hosting the Fund of Sisters in Climate, and from here it's an absolute pleasure as well. At Now Media, keep tuned in, communicating climate impacts, of course, for climate, nature, people and development. Let's support women through Women Rise, and let's be a part of the transformation that centers gender justice, inclusivity and equity for all. Thank you.
Thank you.